Right now, as you watch this video, it is very likely that I am currently falling through the air, plummeting to the ground. No, I am not throwing myself off the side of a very tall building in the hope that I can join the Great Hall. I am actually soaring over the little moat that separates Ireland from East Ireland. I am right now on my way to Manchester for Warhammer Fast this weekend. That's right, I am journeying into the belly of the beast to visit the huge annual convention put on by Games Workshop for their various different game lines every single year. And this year is a really big one, because we have a Warhammer 40k 10th edition and the remake of the Warhammer fantasy game, Warhammer the Old World, both getting massive reveals at this event. And Warhammer Fest attendees will be getting to see these reveals alongside thousands of other wargamers all crammed into one massive sweaty room to watch the Warhammer Twitch channel live. And I'll be there with them in the sweaty room, watching something that's put online. Wait, why didn't I just watch it at home? Oh, that's right, because at Warhammer Fest, I'll finally be able to get my hands on Kevin Roundtree. Just kidding. We all know he's just a story told to kids to make them paint their Space Marines. I'm on to you, Games Workshop. But there will be plenty of other Games Workshop employees there, and I'm going to Warhammer Fest with an agenda. I won't just be playing the Warhammer laser tag, which admittedly does sound pretty fun. I have always wanted to cosplay as a guardsman. Okay, so I'll do laser tag, but then my goal is to find out about Warhammer 10th edition and whether it represents a true turning point for Games Workshop, delivering better deals for hobbyists and a better introduction to wargaming. Or, you know, whether it's going to just simply be business as usual, 9th edition once again. So I've compiled a list, nice and short, so that I can yell it over the ambiance of 1,000 Space Marine fans making bolter signs with their mouths. And this list is the definitive list of the things that Games Workshop must address. You know, if I'm actually allowed in the convention. Maybe I shouldn't have said that I want to get my hands on Kevin Roundtree. Wait, that wasn't meant as a Number 4! No more exclusive boxes that exploit Fomo and consumers. I have talked at length about these products before, so we're not going to linger here for very long, but this has been a massive problem for 9th edition Warhammer and sucked all the fun out of the game and cost consumers a lot. I have a big problem with these boxes, and when I say FOMO exclusive boxes, I'm casting a pretty wide net here. There's two types of releases the Games Workshop have been thrusting into these days, and they are the worst. Both of them fall into this FOMO exclusive box category. The first type is when an entire army releases or gets a full refresh and it comes out in a box with an exclusive limited edition codex, cards, transfers, and a combat patrol worth of models, and typically all of the models in the box are entirely new and they get released with a bunch of fanfare and woo, the new army's here. This started with the Sisters of Battle range release a couple of years back when it was at that time a bit of a novelty, but since then has become endemic to the game and also a cornerstone of Games Workshop's release strategy. Now, every single new refresh releasing in this style, from Age of Sigmar Seraphim to the Imperial Guard for 40k, both just being the latest, frustratingly, this has come to define how Games Workshop release armies these days. And then, to make these worse, this is the only way to buy any of the new sculpts included inside this army box for months, and no release date is ever given by Games Workshop. Meanwhile, everyone is talking about the army and its new codex as if it has released and is impacting the game. Because in a way, it sorta has. Technically, it has been released, but for lots of money, and not everyone can get their hands on it. They don't even have the ghost of a chance. And then inevitably, some incredibly powerful strategy is found by the people that bought 12 of these boxes to make a full 2,000 point army. So Games Workshop hurried to release a digital update to the physical codex inside the army box, rendering the text inside the book irrelevant before its widespread release. And then Games Workshop finally get around to having an official release after all the hype has died and the exclusive boxes were sold. And we can all be so grateful that we can pick up the models and codex separate from one another. I call this particular brand of Fomo box early access armies, and they are terrible for consumers. The other type of Fomo exclusive box is the battle box, which take place when Games Workshop do a filler faction update and they make a single new miniature for a faction to go alongside a new codex update. And then that new miniature is stuck inside a battle box, which is a huge bundle of lots of different older models, including models belonging to a completely different army. And the end result of this is that you're paying hundreds of dollars for a single new miniature. That single miniature, by the way, being frequently the only new content for the factions included inside this box in years. But don't worry, you can buy the model separately at some stage. When? I don't know, when the third star of Jupiter crosses the Emerald Coast. Who the f knows? Examples of these are the Custodes vs. Genestealer release last year, or the Chaos vs. Eldar release. All of these came with an exclusive new model for each army. And then it took what? A year? More for those exclusive models to come out separately, if at all. And even the new boarding patrols have doubled down on this. The latest Tau box, for example, coming with an exclusive model for Farsight. I guess now we should just be happy that we don't have to buy Tyranid models to get a new Tau one. Suffice to say, this is an awful way of releasing new models, and it absolutely plays on people's desire to collect the new stuff for their collection. You know, one of the most vital pillars of this hobby. And this hurts everybody, but it particularly impacts those who are neurodivergent or who have spending problems, poor impulse control, or hoarding tendencies. And this is just getting worse as Games Workshop hype these releases up and the number of people playing these games increases. These boxes suck for everybody, even for Games Workshop. And this style of release model has normalized high price points for individual models, and it has led to a culture within the hobby of extreme pre-orders and encouraged scalping by bots and people worried that they won't be able to get the limited releases that Games Workshop have spent months hyping up to insane heights. Frankly, the release model that leads to both of these Fomo exclusive boxes are a pretty scary development in the hobby space, so I will not stop talking about this. Y'all cannot shut me up. These are aggressively anti-consumer, and I will continue to fight them at every step of the way. And I want to hear if Games Workshop keep planning on doing these. I want to hear them try and wiggle out some justifications for these nakedly predatory release models. Okay, so maybe I dwelled on that one a little longer than I thought. Number 3, filler releases. 9th edition 40k came with a lot of content. We saw entire new armies like Leagues of Votann, range refreshes for lots of existing factions like the Imperial Guard, Orcs and Eldar, and more. But the vast majority of factions, they basically got a single new model, again, hidden inside a massive Fomo exclusive box. And a codex. These were essentially filler releases, designed and sold to tick a box and nothing more. These armies needed a new codex because Games Workshop have a business model where they keep selling new books to hobbyists that don't need new books. You're a Genestealer Cultist player? Well, we have to sell a new 9th edition codex to you because we haven't tapped into your wallet in a while. Oh, and buy this massive bundle containing a bunch of stuff you already have, an army you don't want to collect, and a single new model too while you're at it. These are designed to keep hobbyists on the hook and anchored into the purchasing ecosystem. Wouldn't want hobbyists to stray and buy models from any other company now, would we? This is exactly why we keep seeing continual new releases of Space Marine captains and lieutenants. And with 10th edition Warhammer, all of those codices that were released for 9th are axed. They are gone, and many hobbyists are rightly frustrated as a result. But moving to an index system for 10th edition, and this is where all the armies are updated at once and brought to parity by including all of their rules inside one single massive book or two, means that Warhammer is about to become a lot more balanced and fun to play than ever before. And this balance might start getting upended when codices start getting released again for each individual army, just for the sake of Games Workshop having something to sell. Instead, the focus of Games Workshop should be on what's best for the game. A faction only needs an update if there is something missing, or if the army gameplay isn't fun, or if there's something substantial to add to the army. We don't need filler releases. We don't need codices released just for the sake of it with a perfunctory new model just to have something to sell. Still, if an army is going to get updated, then Games Workshop need to make it worthwhile. I really didn't need another Genestealer Cultist character model last year. There was already like 20 of them included in the previous codex. Why even bother updating the army just to release the Saboteur? It's a waste of a release slot, and instead Games Workshop could spend more time getting the factions and armies right and balanced. This incidentally will also help fight that feeling of saturation that many hobbyists have around Warhammer. There's always something new every other day, and it can be incredibly overwhelming. There's so many releases constantly sweeping the community. A longer downtime between models would be welcome. Look at Magic the Gathering. That entire franchise is having a bit of a crisis as a result of saturation. And there's currently a cost of living crisis. People are really feeling the pinch, as I well know. So don't just release stuff for the sake of it. I'm going to ask the Games Workshop be a lot more thoughtful about how they create content for this game. Number 2. This one is super simple. Digital codices, release for free. Games Workshop initially announced that the rules for 40k 10th edition would be totally free, which I completely praised. But then they clarified that codices for every single army would be released with a price tag, which I did not praise. What's the opposite of praising? This totally undermined their announcement. Now, I could go into a lot here, but I think it's easy enough to say the paywalling rules for factions sucks, and almost every other major war game has the stats and rules for their armies available for free online, and Games Workshop should be no different. They're not exceptional. It is time for them to catch up. This is something they should have been doing a decade ago. I want to know why they still haven't caught up with the rest of the wargame market. And I'm going to grill them on that if I get the chance. Number 1. This is the secret one. People don't talk about this very often, but Games Workshop really need to improve their communication. Games Workshop have gotten a lot better at communicating with the community in the last few years, and they've gotten a lot of praise for that. But that's mostly emerged from the fact that they started just posting stuff online. I guess they got over their feeling that the World Wide Web would just be a fad, and they post stuff for the community on their blog, Warhammer Community. Unfortunately though, this website is only so useful, and the information that is often available doesn't amount to much more than puff pieces about new releases. They're just press statements telling us about how excited we should be. But what we need from Games Workshop is actual communication, serious information presented to hobbyists. Sure, you can have your fun, but I need details. When is a model coming out? Will it be a limited release? If it is, then why? How many are being produced? Will they be made to order? Yes or no? And what is the release window? When will they be available to buy again? Will this made to order model ever be put into production again, or is it intended that it will be gone forever? And how much will it cost? Is this exclusive model going to get released separately? And if so, when? Tell me that before you sell the box. I need to make a judgment as a consumer as to whether or not it is worth it to buy a bundle or not. We need to see roadmaps with dates or general release windows, not just blank images with question marks on them. I'm sick of relying on leaks and teases for information. Games Workshop lose their mind over leaks, but it's genuinely the only way that we get to hear about anything beyond next week's new Space Marine Captain model. There's a reason that there's so many leaks out of Games Workshop. There's so much stuff to leak because they don't tell the community anything. This is how Games Workshop can get ahead of leaks, by the way. Just be more transparent, open, and communicative. The community is mature, but GW need to communicate the actual information, not make lame jokes about Dark Eldar masturbation fantasies. That's my gig. And secret number 0. Alright folk, what's the plan with presenters? Y'all kinda just lost one of the last great presenters in your roster with Louise Sugden. It speaks to the most toxic kind of management. The Games Workshop are constantly losing talent, and that their response to this isn't to create a better place to work, but try to hide who those creatives are. Why would you just show the hands of your personalities? This is the same attitude that led to Foxconn hearing that employees were jumping off the roof of their factories, so their response was to put nets up. Come on, there's fundamental management problems that need to be addressed here. It speaks to a toxic work environment. Oh, I don't think Games Workshop are gonna like these questions. This could be a scary trip for me. And so, if I never return from Warhammer Fast, if you never hear from me again, if this is indeed my final video, well, I suppose you can expect 10th edition to look a lot like 9th. Oh, and I guess the Kevin Roundtree isn't just a story, so paint your Space Marines. And that's my 5 big topics that I'm bringing with me to Warhammer Fest that I want to see addressed. Let's hope that I can get into that Q&A. But let me know in the comments below if you think there's anything that I should be raising with Games Workshop, and check out my concerns for the future of Warhammer 40k here. Also, I would really appreciate that if you enjoy this content, then please do think about supporting the channel at patreon.com/discoursminiatures and help me keep creating this content. My videos have started getting demonetized, so it's only thanks to Patreon that I can keep doing this. And a huge thanks to all my patrons, especially Sonic Bread and Crypto Kev. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll catch you all next time. Bye-bye!